happy Friday to everyone. I'm excited to have with me today my good friend and co-author. I cannot believe that we're co-authors.
I know, right?
So fantastic. This is Megan Farrell-Nelson. She is a local realtor in the Palm Coast, Florida area. So she is on the East Coast looking at the Atlantic while we sit here and look at the Gulf. So
just a couple hours away. So.
Yeah, it's not too far. I need to head over there sometime anyway. Just to see the other side of the state. But I am so excited that you joined me today. We are really excited that we have this book coming out, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But as always, when we begin, I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background so that people can get to know who you are.
Sure. So, hi, thank you, Nicole, so much for having me. Super excited to chat with you today. And yeah, my name is Megan. Obviously, I am a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a real estate agent. I live on the East Coast in Northeast Florida. I'm from Northeastern Pennsylvania. But I got away from the snow as soon as possible. Yeah. So I moved here about 10 years ago, and prior to living in Florida, I was a kindergarten teacher. So I say, I went from taking care of people's most valuable possession is their child, right? Their baby when they go to school, and now I help with their biggest investment. So it was a kind of a really, I had a friend, suggest to me when I moved to Florida, I wasn't teaching at the time. He's like, why don't you try real estate? You like to talk to people. And I always joke that that's what the job is, right? Just talking to people. But
simply kind of, yeah.
It worked 10 years later, almost 10 years later, I'm still doing this. And over the last 10 years, I really have been all of the things: solo agent, team leader, team member. My husband became team lead, and it's kind of evolved into what it is today. And we have a branch office for our broker. We just switched to Real Broker, and we have a branch office here locally. We have a real estate team, and it's back to myself and my husband, and I'm loving it. And and we prioritize our family time. And so I just love how it's kind of evolved from, what it was at the beginning to what it is now. So in that process, I've made all the mistakes too. So that's the fun part about it, is that we get to, continue to evolve and make mistakes in this career and, flow with it.
That's what I told my team the other day. We were discussing something. I said, listen, I am certainly not a perfect person, but I will dive deep with you. We're going to be side by side, and we'll figure some stuff out. But that's just the beauty of anything. I think you have to be able to ebb and flow. With anything, you've got to be able to roll the punches a little bit. So, especially in real estate. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Speaking of, how is your market on the East Coast? A little quick synopsis. How are things rolling for you over there?
Well, obviously, we've, just like every area, we've seen the slowdown with the interest rates, and obviously they dropped yesterday. But in our market yesterday, Nicole visited, and so
not this one.
Not that Nicole, no, the hurricane. And so, although my home wasn't in an area that was severely damaged, we've got some, a tree down in our front yard, but nothing major. But our beach took a major hit. So, that's always something that does come into play, or can come into play during hurricane season. So I will see how that ends up affecting things. It usually gives us a pause for a minute, or it speeds up quick because people are looking for places to live. So, but we've seen a little bit of a slowdown. We have an uptick in inventory. So I think, the election is passed, and rates just went down. So I think we're going to see a little bit of action right before the holidays.
I think so too. We're seeing a very similar thing. Nicole, the storm, she gave us some rain yesterday. And to be completely honest, I know it was a hurricane, but gosh darn, we needed some rain in their area so bad. I've never seen Florida so dry. And so, I'm grateful for that. I mean, God gives us what we're supposed to have at the right time. So I'm just going to roll with that. But, after we had Hurricane Michael here in 2018, and, as a Cat 5 storm. And yes, there was definitely a pause But we went, it continued on very, very quickly. So I have a feeling you'll be fine. There'll be a little bit of stuff, just kind of take care of each other, and then,
Well, and that's the best part, right? Is that like communities really come together during these times, and I'm already getting the emails of like, hey, volunteer opportunities, and so it just starts flowing really quick. We've got an amazing group of people. It's called Flagler Strong, and they work together all year long to be prepared for when this stuff happens. So it's cool when a plan can come together. I mean, that's the part of Florida, right? Like we have the beauty all the time, most of the time, and then you got a little hurricane season here and there. So
yeah, and it's all good. I don't mind. I mean, I don't like the big Cat 5 storms, of course. I mean, after going through that, but it's just part of the love. So.
Well, and it's just like it's kind of like with the storms, and then like with the rates and everything, like we just have to focusing on controlling our controllables, to keep moving forward, and so it's just another opportunity to grow and
opportunity
learn.
to stay client focused and building those relationships, and I mean that's what it's about. So
absolutely.
Well, we were talking a little bit before we got on here. When I'm interviewing someone, we haven't met in person. I've seen her online, and of course we're co-authors. So I dig a little bit. And she has a beautiful 3.5-year-old.
Yes.
He is so cute. I mean, adorable. Like I was looking at his pictures, I'm like, oh, look at his little curly hair.
I know. He's like Shirley Temple curls.
So. And I have the privilege of having adult children. So as I've grown into the real estate, my kids have been either teenagers or in the 20s. So do you have just a quick second? How do you maneuver life with real estate and a small person and all the things that, that we're expected to be, the wife, the mother, the worker?
Sure. So I would say that up until about a little over 2 years ago, I tried to be all things to everyone. Prior to having a child, when I got into real estate, I was single. So my hours, like working all the time, was fine. And then as I was, I guess, growing in life, like getting married, having my son, I just kept adding things on and never really took anything off. Because I couldn't, it was all about me, right? Like I couldn't let anyone down. I couldn't fail. Well, little did I know, like other people were there to help me. And so it was about a little over 2 years ago where I hit the wall running at 100 miles an hour, I say. And I had my moment where I was like, all right, things need to change in my life. And so I made a decision to remove alcohol from my life, and that has been something that's been so incredible. My sleep's better, my relationships are better. It just, it took up time that I, was focused on different things. Like I thought networking had to be at happy hours, and now I do a ton of appointments. So it's just like transitioning old into new habits, and I've just gotten a chance to know who I am again. And I think that as moms and as women in business, we can lose ourselves, right? To trying to prove everything to everyone. And so, just taking that time to step back and figure out who am I, what do I want out of this business, and what are my priorities? Because before all this, I just was working all the time. I was the president of my local association. I was the chair for this committee, that committee, trying to literally as many things as I could do. And I decided that my son is my focus. So I drop him off every day. I pick him up every day.
Good for you.
Yeah. And we were talking before, I'm like, okay, so I get to now regulate customer emotions, my own emotions, right? Because in recovery now, I'm feeling all my feelings all the time. And then a 3.5-year-old. So kind of back to controlling the controllables, there's so much uncertainty with the market and the rates and the storms and stuff that I've really had to dial in on my routine and focus on taking care of myself, making sure I put lotion on my skin, just little things where I'm taking care of me, and making sure that I'm doing the stuff I want to do, take my son to school. And today, I am taking him to Universal. And it's kind of like this like duality feeling. Like I'm like, oh man, I wish I could go volunteer. But I've also told my son for 3 weeks we were going to go today.
Yep.
So, sometimes it's the choices of like, what do I need to do for what I'm focused on? And saying no to the volunteering is saying yes to my son. And so just learning how to say yes to the right things that fill me up. Because productivity doesn't always equal hours spent, and I think that's a misconception. And I think that we're kind of like, this industry can push you to think like you have to work hard to like be successful. And you really can have, Brady and I now call it harmony, not balance. So it's like,
I love that.
Yeah. So
overused that is a beautiful one. Like everyone's talking about the market shift, and I'm like, I call it a market normalization.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I don't know. Things get overused.
Well, and words matter, right? And so, like balance is really, nothing's ever in balance. That's just not realistic when you're trying to do, you're trying to do greatness, right? Greatness in your home, greatness in your career. And it doesn't mean like a lot of sales. It just means putting a lot, like excellence into what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think that like the harmony, the definition in the dictionary is like 2 or more chords coming together to create a pleasing sound. And so we like to think of it as like our marriage is 1 chord, our business is another, our time with our son is another. And so some days, like we shifted our plans today. We were going to be at the park when they opened. And when he woke up this morning, I was like, all right, mom's got to get on a call. But as soon as the call, but I said, the call's over, we're going. He's like, okay, cool. We get to eat peanut butter and jelly when we get there. I'm like, yeah, but we'll get peanut butter and jelly. So,
he's my spirit. I love peanut butter and jelly.
Right? I know. It's my favorite thing that he asks for them. Like, take me back to when we were kids. But it's like that's the part that it's not like an even amount of hours today, but I'm still pouring into the buckets that I need to pour into to help me feel full.
That's awesome. It's something that we work really hard on as a team. We have these commitments that we work on together, and I'm on them all the time. Like one of our commitments for this last quarter is to basically give yourself 30 minutes a day. I really wanted to tell them an hour, but I knew I was pushing my limit a little bit. Do something for yourself each day for a minimum of 30 minutes. I don't care what it is. But if you don't have this, Phil, how are you going to pour this out into somebody else? How are you going to be able to take care of whether that's your client or whether that's your spouse or your kids or whatever? Like you can't just continually pour out to others and give and give and give if you haven't taken the time to sit back and just pour a little bit into yourself. And it's so important.
Absolutely. We when we were meeting with our financial advisor, and I was like, oh, we have a Massage MD subscription for the 2 of us. And it's something that we did a couple years ago just because it was one of those things, take care of ourselves. And we were like, oh, we could take that off. Like, we don't go that often. And our financial advisor was like, do you like it when you go like to get a massage? I was like, well, yeah. He said, well, then you're going to keep it on. And like, we're not giving up things that help bring you joy. And I'm like, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I like that. That's a cool leadership, like what you're doing for your team. It's really nice to,
those kind of things you don't just know, you just don't randomly come into finding that stuff out. And, you learn this stuff the hard way. And it's something that's incredibly important to me. It's part of our story. It's part of our Be Major team story. And I think that what's going to be really cool is like, we are 2 people out of 16 of this co-author of this book, right? So we're going to get to know more about your story and a little bit more about my story. And I feel like it's going to be so cool just to stop and say, someone's gone through something and this is what they've learned from it, so that you can take that and apply it if it applies to your life.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through these hard knocks that we have. Right. You don't have to do this. Like let us implore a little bit of love and knowledge that we've experienced. And like I said, like we're on such different walks, such different journeys, whether that's in your life, or whether that's in your real estate or all of the above, like it's just going to be really good. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to see the final copy. I'm kind of like,
I know. I don't know when we're supposed to get them, but I'm like, also,
I think it's soon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's super
It
exciting.
better be soon.
I know, it's very exciting, and congratulations to you for being at this part of your career too, because I know how hard we work, right? Like we try to do the best you can, and so it does feel good to stop and celebrate. So I hope you stop and celebrate this moment for you too.
Yeah, and you as well. Like it's super cool. I mean, when they approached me, I was like, me? Like me? Like I'm not sure. Like you're talking to the right girl here, but because for me, like my story is probably in the beginning to middle part of it. I have a lot of real estate background, but like I started as in here in 2015. So, I don't have as many years under my belt, but I have some life knowledge. And so she was like, no, I think that your story needs to be told. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So I'm all in.
Well, and that's like that's it, right? Like it's Tam, who interviewed us, she's the woman who helped with the book. She, like, every time she's like, I just love this job because every woman is so like has a different story, but it's all the same. Yeah. And like it's always some kind of adversity that we overcome, and it's so empowering to be around other women who are powering through things, because like it's so easy right now to go on social media and see how great everyone's doing, right? Like nobody's talking about the pain and like
the highlight reels.
So it's good to know, and I think that there's a huge part of our audience and our society that's craving that authenticity, and that really wants to get to know us. And I think with what's going on in the market, my whole business plan right now is all about strengthening those relationships and continuing to build deep relationships. I'm going back to those basics, controlling the controllables, right? Like my routine, my actions, what works, picking up my phone and like not calling and saying, do you know anyone? Like, hey, how are you?
Exactly. Like get invested in the people, which has always been,
of course. Yeah.
I've always been told like, you got to go straight for it. I'm like, but they're but I like them, like, and so, I was told like, don't get like invested in these people. Like not everyone's your best friend. And I'm like, but why can't they be?
Yeah, I know, but when you live in a community and like you're like, it's a true community, right? Like your people become your community. And like, we're going to do a picture with Santa event coming up, and I'm so excited to see everybody and like just have an uplifting holiday season after like the last couple months, because it's been heavy for everyone, right? Like the words like recession, rates up, like all of that's inflation. No one wants to hear that stuff. And so I think there's like a low layer, like just like anxiety or like unease, And so I think it's going to be super important to not just for our customers, but also like our team members, like to boost morale. We have a meeting on Monday, and I'm so excited. We are going to create our core values, and
good.
Yeah. So
I love doing that. That's something that we did together. And then as new members come in, like we sit down and like, this is our mission statement. These are core values, our standards, and our principles. And honestly, if this is not who you want to be, or this doesn't fit you, I'm cool with that. But this is who we are. So yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, and it's the same exact thing. We hadn't done it before, and it's just like when we transitioned, we end up bringing a majority of our office that we had with our former company, and it just feels right. Like everyone's very vested. All of the people are the generous, the uplifting, the positive. They're just the right crew, and I'm super excited. But it's all about morale boosting on all levels, right? Yeah. So. And even for each other, that's why this book is awesome, because I get to like learn from you and grow from you, and vice versa, and all the other women. So
it's going to be good. I'm excited for it. So speaking of the book, let's talk. So I wrote a couple notes because I just wanted to make sure they're in my head. So it's actually supposed to be released on Amazon on November 15th, and it's called Women in Real Estate Who Boss Up. So look at that. There are 16 authors. I can toss down everyone's name, but oh my goodness, it's a slew of some of the most amazing women across the United States. Like truly, like it's very humbling to even be listed in there. And I'm like, I'm an author, like that's super cool. But and then also, if you are more interested in like learning a little bit more about the authors, we're doing a Zoom on the 17th. I think it's at 7 o'clock Eastern time, 7 p.m. Eastern, and I can drop that link in the show notes. Basically, you can just hop on and get to know everyone. Like you know, you've got to see these two, but there's 14 others. So I'm not sure if everyone's going to be able to hop onto that Zoom, but I think that everyone's kind of committed to it. So that's really good. But we'd love for you to help support us. And if you have a chance to hop on Amazon and grab the book, that'd be cool.
So. Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. I'm so excited. It's going to be such a good book. So uplifting. So many great stories. So can't wait to read it.
It's going to be great. Well, I so appreciate you joining us today, and I know that it's always a privilege and an honor for someone to come on and give me a little bit about who they are and their story. So I thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy your Friday. Take care, and as always, we'll talk soon.
Bye.